The Zone Coverage Podcast Network.
They may be drinkers, Robin, but they're also human beings.
Hell yeah, let's get Stinko.
And here we go. Here we are at the end. Say goodbye to all your friends. Here we go.
Back to Bradley. Centers for Cleveland. They score! Parisi ties it for Minnesota!
Come down. It's the end of the summer. It's the end of it all. Those days are gone. It's over now. We're moving on. It's the end of the summer. But we'll see it all again. So hold on to this moment till then. It's the end of the summer.
Spurgeon will play it back. Mikhail Gramlin. Gramlin stick handles through the neutral zone. Splits the defense. Gramlin goes in. He shoots. He scores. Gramlin scores. 12 seconds into overtime. It's over. The Wild win it 5-4. Demniak protects the puck. Lost it to Parisi. Back in front of Niederreiter. He scores. Demniak had it protected. Parisi got it free. Niederreiter floated free in front of it and drives it home. And it's 5-3 Minnesota.
End of the summer. It's the end of it all. Those days are gone. It's over now. We're moving on. It's the end of the summer. But we'll see it all again. So hold on to this moment till then. It's the end of the summer. End of the summer.
Spurgeon on the backhand will carry back behind the goal. Goes to the offensive right corner. Drops it back at the right point for Suter. Now for Spurgeon, top of the right circle down. Low shot, they score! Beautiful play! And scoring is Joel Eriksson-Ek.
Boy, was it ever a nice play. This one is scaled back and high to center. Whacked on there and ahead for Stahl. He scores on a nice pass from Parisi. And the Wild strike first.
The end of the summer. It's the end of it all. Those days are gone. It's over now. We're moving on. It's the end of the summer. But we'll see it all again. So hold on to this moment till then.
It's a great scenario for me that I can continue to play in the NHL and be home. And it's an organization I'm really comfortable with and happy to be a part of.
Oh, Granlund with a shot that was high. Rebound score! Cullen! At 1:30, it's 1-0.
We'll see it all again. So hold on till this moment till then. It's the end of the summer. End of the summer.
We are back, baby. We are f***ing back. We're back.
Hi, we're back. Welcome. This is season 4, of Giles and the Goalies podcast. I am Giles Farrell.
King blogger, extraordinaire.
If you can't tell by my thick Minnesota accent, you can find me on the Twitter machine at Giles Farrell. And if you can't tell by the hysterical laughing across the table from me, that is Ben Remington.
Hello.
Find him on Twitter at Ben Remington.
Yes.
Coming to the defense of the analytics people, if you will.
Well.
I'm just kidding. No, this is season 4 of Giles and the Goalies podcast. Also, it is, actually, I messed up. This is Giles and the Goalies podcast presented by Pick and Shovelware and Tin Whiskers Brewery.
Yeah.
that's exciting.
The season is so exciting. We have 2 sponsors.
Yeah.
Kind of.
People are getting on the bandwagon. It's just so happened that the 5 people we've gotten on the bandwagon, 2 of them are sponsors.
Tom Trier doesn't count.
He's the other 3.
Okay.
No, we're gonna have more on that later. We got some things to give away, and some promoting to do. We have a lot to catch up on. First of which is, it's been 2 months. We made it the entire summer without podcasting.
I know.
We didn't have to have a special show. Did you enjoy your summer?
I did.
You moved.
Yeah, I did. I moved from the North Metro to the South Metro, which isn't nearly as fun as it sounds. But no, it's a crazy life. I'm still traveling every week, and I'm like a minute closer to the airport now than I was before, so I guess that's cool, but same old otherwise.
I did not move this summer. I am still a firm resident of the Midway, which is nice, although my roommate of choice is still debatable. But no, it was a fun summer. I made a few trips down the Jason Zucker Memorial Expressway.
What is that? It was Total Limousine last season, wasn't it? The Total Limousine I-35 report.
Yeah.
Giles was on the Total Limousine I-35 report every other week this summer.
Yeah, a few times, and probably quite a few more times as the season goes on. But I'll be back here to podcast. I'm team first player here.
Good.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Good. I didn't, busy. Obviously, moving is tons of fun, as everyone well knows. More recently, yesterday, I went to see the play Aladdin. That was fun and exciting.
I'm going to see that next weekend.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It's actually really good. I did enjoy it.
Do they sing?
Yeah, they sing a lot.
I can show you the world.
Dude, so when they started that song, obviously I knew it's coming. When they started that, it didn't register with me that we used that so much last season. I just started cracking up in the middle of this, Broadway extravaganza.
And then your girlfriend probably was like, "What's wrong with you?"
Well, yeah, I mean, she thought that long before the play started, but
that's fair.
No,
Mine
it was
does that too.
Yeah, it was good. I was concerned that the genie wouldn't live up to Robin Williams, because how the hell do you live up to Robin Williams? So they went kind of a different direction with it, more of a sassy Oprah direction with it. But no, I think it was good. It was good. There was magic tricks and stuff, and it was a good play. So enjoy.
Good. I'm excited to see it next weekend. I'll give a full report next Sunday.
Okay.
I still can't believe we made an entire summer without having special podcast.
Well, I mean, nothing happened in the realm of Patrick Waugh.
Yeah, we had to break into our hiatus to
the Mighty Ducks. Or
it feels like we teetered on that at some points, but we never.
We considered it with the Nino and Granlund extensions, because they came out. It was the same day, wasn't it, or within a day of each other?
2 days apart.
Yeah, so they were pretty close. We considered it then, but I mean, I don't know that they were kind of, nothing was super shocking about them, I guess. So it didn't really warrant a special episode. But yeah, otherwise, pretty uneventful since we've been around. I mean, there's been a couple of things aside from those that happened, and we can run them down. Did you want to grind your gears before we get to all this wild stuff?
I have some grinding of the gears to get to.
Good.
Because, it's been 2 months, but both of which have come in the last 3 days. So I've got fresh grinding of the gears for you. The first of which came this morning. I was partaking in some brunch, classic millennial. And I had a fantasy draft at the same time. First of all, to further explain this out, I unknowingly made plans for brunch today. Neither myself or my girlfriend, sitting next to me, us, realized that we had made these plans with our friends last week. So yesterday when I got a text that said, "You're still on for brunch tomorrow," and I went, "Oh boy." So I was like, okay, I guess I can see if the podcast recording can be pushed back an hour, and I'll just like either auto draft or just draft on my phone, which is terrible.
Right.
But I endured, and I was drafting on my phone during brunch today, which was great.
Sounds like a tremendous brunch.
Bottomless mimosas, too, to go with it. We found the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Bottom of the bottomless. And so we're getting into the 8th, 9th rounds, and Jamie looks at me and says, "Let me make your next pick." So I was like, okay, I had some players in the queue and whatever. So, well, she looked at it for 5 seconds and then gave it to my other friend sitting across the table. And he loves to joke around with me. So he starts filling up my queue with all the goalies, because he's like, I'm just gonna make sure you pick all the goalies.
I like the strategy.
We can only pick 3. I already had 2.
Never have 2.
Cam Talbot and Henrik Lundqvist.
Of course you have
on brand.
Of course you have Hank.
So I'm looking through my queue, and I've just got just about any goalie there is. So as I'm going through, I'm trying to clean up the queue because I know I only need one more goalie, and that's it. So I was not paying attention, and it became my turn on the clock. And all of a sudden, the buttons to unqueue the player becomes the draft buttons.
Oh, yes!
So all of a sudden, the screen flickered, and I realized, and it just said, "Your last pick, Michael Leighton, goaltender, Tampa Bay." Oh, no.
That's awesome. And you said that Dwayne Rollison was still on the ESPN Fantasy Hockey
Every
list.
year, we always find obscure players in the draft that are still on ESPN. And Dwayne Rollison was still available to be drafted.
As if you needed any more reason to question ESPN's hockey coverage. I don't know.
Well, don't worry. All their writers are with The Athletic now.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. They've gone to a better place. Or so they say.
So I decidedly had to place blame on having Michael Leighton drafted in an 8-team fantasy league. So no, the blame was not assigned to my friend who filled the queue with said players, because I expect that from him.
Yeah.
I placed the blame on the person who handed him the phone to begin with.
Well, it's a chain of events.
As she giggles at the side of the table, it's just like an evil laugh.
She's just sabotaging her hobbies one by one. That's what good women do. They start picking them off, and then you have none left, and you wonder how it happened.
I do have to give her credit. She's trying to learn hockey, and she first did not just ask me for tutelage in that department. She bought the Hockey Guide for Dummies.
Oh, that's right. You were reading that. I saw that.
So, credit to her. Don't listen to me. She knows that.
Well, she now has more formal training than either one of us on hockey. Then that's a problem.
No, so that's my first grind my gears. The second, it's small. Like, it obviously grinds both of our gears, but it's a hockey podcast, so it's not really relevant here. But I have to vent about this. On Friday night, we went to the Twins game. It's pennant fever striking the Twin Cities, which is weird.
Night.
Yeah, and I went to the store because I keep going in there looking for the Byron Buxton throwback jersey in the hopes that they have it.
The cream?
They haven't had it,
Yeah.
So finally I had just asked. I was like, when are you going to get these jerseys? And the guy said, well, we don't have them. And then he started to think about it. He's like, I don't even think we're going to have those stitched because the jerseys are going out next year. And then he tried to upsell me the white or red jerseys, which are heavily featured with the Kasota wanking motion gold. No, sir, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
And I looked online, and I can't even get that online.
Really?
Yeah.
What the hell?
They just have, you can get, Joe Mauer 3XL jerseys, but that's it.
That is rather unfortunate because...
it's upsetting.
Neither one of us, obviously, and anyone sane is a fan of the Kasota Gold. So the fact they're getting rid of the only jersey that they have that doesn't feature it is concerning.
It's just a good look. Why are you doing that? Why?
We ask ourselves these questions all the time, and I get the whole rebranding thing you want, and I think it was the RIP, the No Juice podcast. They talked about it when it first came out.
Rest in peace.
Yes, Dan and Parker did a great job, and Dan had a great point at the time. I vividly remember it. He was saying, this is somebody justifying their job. It's just someone in, management, not front office management, but team management, brand management, if you will, just justifying their job. They have to come up with an idea to make things different to validate the fact that they have, probably a decent paying job in the Twins office.
They are unceremoniously cutting their best jerseys in the same way they cut Doug Minkiewicz too soon.
Yeah, that deal, obviously there's more than meets the eye there because he had a good run in Fort Myers, but I'm very interested to maybe find out at some point what the philosophical differences were between him and the front office, because in all ways, shapes, and forms it seemed like he was doing a great job and his players loved him. And what more could you ask for from a minor league manager, I don't know, was he telling them to bunt too often? I'm not really sure.
He's going to catch on somewhere.
Oh, for sure.
I read that.
Absolutely.
It reminded me the other day, and he was third in the running for Twins manager when Paul Mauer was hired.
Oh, for sure.
I think he's not far from being a Major League Baseball.
He could even get a AAA job this year and be next in line for a franchise very soon.
But anyway, that's my grind my gears. Do you have any gears to grind?
I don't. Okay, that's your bit. So,
well, I'm sure when we get to one of the things on the list here, you're going to have something to grind.
Well, maybe. Did you want to do the Boudreaux quote of the week this week? Do you have it or no?
Yes. Okay. Let's debut our new segment.
Hi, this is Bruce Boudreaux. I don't see how in Toronto that they're calling it, unless it's a guy they just pulled in off the street that hasn't seen hockey before. If I were the fans, I'd be booing even more because they pay good money for this.
If you want it, don't just think you want it. Go out and f***ing want it.
So, new segment for this week, or this year, sorry, is we are going to highlight a Bruce Boudreaux quote as his best of the week, because it felt like every third day last year, there was just a golden line from him. So we want to try and highlight that this year. And that's why we have the special transition for the Boudreaux segment. And if I was adequately prepared, I'd have it right in front of me. But we did get Media Day on Friday, on which, the Wild and players and coaches met with the media. And Bruce Boudreaux got on with Wild TV, which was being streamed on Fox Sports Go, but I just missed this. I turned it on, he was speaking, but because he said it instantly, I missed this part. But fortunately, the Minnesota Wild PR account on Twitter sent this out as he jumped on, which was great. And he says, and I quote, as he puts on a headset to talk to Wild TV, "I feel like a NASA astronaut with this headset. Hello, Apollo."
and this is, we're doing this segment because basically we can, because we're blessed with...
Yeah, we can do what we want.
That too. But we're blessed with Bruce Boudreaux as the head coach of our hockey team. You are never going to see a Mike Yeo quote of the week.
No.
Jacques Lemaire was borderline. He could have some good ones, but he was a little more stoic, so I feel like...
your Mike Yo generic line of the week.
Yeah, your Mike Yo coach speak of the week. Yeah, and Lemaire, I feel, is more like a once-a-month type of guy. But Boudreau, it's daily. You get these kind of quotes from him. Whether he's pissed off or joking around or just kind of generally being Bruce Boudreau. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. I don't doubt our ability to find fodder for this. No. It's just a matter of how good they are week in and week out.
No, and there's so much coverage of the Wild. Whenever Boudreau speaks, it's out there. Yep. It all gets out there, whether it's just on some kind of video or Twitter. This stuff is getting out there, so we are blessed to have all this come to us. So we're going to make sure we save the important one that need to be highlighted, and we're going to do this every week. So that is our kicking off the Boudreau quote of the week.
Sure.
And as you heard in that segment, or the transition, those were a couple of the highlighted ones from last year. And then obviously the infamous 24/7 bit where he's flipping out on the Capitals, because you have to include that.
Right.
No, that is exciting. Or I hope you're excited about it, because
it should be fun, at least.
It's a little more work for us to,
at the very least,
put that in. So look for that. Anyway,
so should we run down the off season now?
Yes. So we were gone for 2 months, but that didn't stop the hockey news from filtering in.
Sure.
And we're not going to continue to podcast, because if you try to do this for every week, we have nothing.
Right.
We might as well have the girlfriends come on and talk with us.
We could become a baseball podcast.
We could.
Do you have a kimono?
No, I just frequently go to Cinnabon.
Oh, okay. Who doesn't?
So no, we made a list of everything that happened this summer, and we're gonna quick run down the list now because, well, we didn't talk about it yet.
Right.
And we love to talk, in case you didn't know. Mm-hmm. So we started at July 30th, which was 2 weeks after our last show. Mm-hmm. So there was a good 2 weeks of about nothing. Mm-hmm. Probably. I probably missed something in there, but
basically nothing.
Oh well. Yeah. We got the important stuff. July 30th, in the morning, the NHL announced 2018 draft will be held in Dallas. That's... I had that, probably not worthy of talking about it, but I just wanted to remember that the NHL had a tweet where they had the city of Dallas, and it was all green, and then somebody quote tweeted that saying, "This looked like the Riddler City in Batman Forever."
That's nice.
So had to drop in an obscure Batman Forever reference. Last week I did a Batman Forever puzzle that I found at my mom's house.
Jeez.
She laughs. I'm not sure if she's laughing at me because I did that.
Yeah.
Or if she's laughing at me because I had that.
Both.
Oh, both.
Yeah. That's fair.
Well, there you go. And then that same day, later in the afternoon, the Wild signed Nino Niederreiter to a 5-year deal at $26.25 million.
Yes.
No trade clause.
Right.
Because
he's not eligible.
He didn't want to restrict the team to being able to move him if he wasn't performing.
Yeah, he's not eligible for no movement, but a no trade he is. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Which was interesting, and it brought out the, look at him, team first player kind of people.
Yeah, we
take
can...
that, Zach Parisi and Ryan Suter.
We can talk about this later in the mailbag, but yeah, the no trade clause. I mean, I think it's great that he's so willing to do that, but Nino is not. He doesn't have a family yet, as far as we know. If we do, they're in beautiful Chur, Switzerland.
Well, have you? Yeah, wouldn't be surprising with the Chur mascot.
Right. So yeah, different priorities for different players, obviously, and Nino at this stage of his career especially, wants to play where he's wanted. He wants minutes. He wants to develop his career. He wants to, be a better player. And if he gets to a point with the Wild for whatever reason, and I don't think it's going to happen, but for whatever reason, if they get to a point where he falls out of favor with the Wild, he doesn't want to stick around and, be relegated to a fourth line or a healthy scratch type thing because they can't trade him. So I understand that coming from him and his priorities, being a younger guy, being a guy who's on the rise, being an up-and-coming player, it totally makes sense. He doesn't have a wife and 3 kids that he doesn't want to move around the country yet, so that would be the reason why he probably didn't care for the no-trade clause.
And worth pointing out, he has missed only 3 games in the 4 years he's played with the Wild, which has included at least 164 straight. I'm not sure when he missed a game in the 2014-15 season last, but that was the last time he didn't play in a game. And he's coming off a 57-point season. Yeah. And as our friend Derek of The Athletic, which we're going to get to in a little bit, pointed out this last week, with increased ice time, which it has been seemingly promised to him, Niederreiter should be able to hit the 30-goal and most likely 60-point mark because he's a very productive forward. Yeah.
So very good news.
Before I forget, this is one I did miss. This was from July 10th. Okay. I made an acquisition. I don't know if I said this on a podcast or not, but I'm wearing it today.
Oh. I don't remember if you mentioned it or not.
Somebody's going to tell us we did or we didn't. Yeah. We have enough listeners now. We have 10 of them.
That have way better memories than we do. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, 4.
One of the 10.
The Peanut Gallery just pointed out we have 4 listeners.
Yeah, 4. Good point.
We're on our way to mid-roll.
Oh, boy.
No, but I bought a Paul Kariya jersey.
Nice.
And I'm so happy to be wearing it.
This summer also, as long as I bought a Darcy Kemper jersey.
Yes, you are representing like no one's business.
Also very on-brand.
Yes. It's a shame. We've already used on-brand podcast name.
True. That's true.
Yeah, because this podcast is we try to stay on brand here.
We do. We stay in our lane.
No, okay. July 31st, the NBC Sportsnet schedule came out. Minnesota Wild are on for 12 games on that this year, which seems pretty high for them.
Yep.
As expected when you have the second best record in the conference a year ago. No surprise, Chicago leads with 17 appearances. And I think if I remember right, the only other thing I found odd was that Nashville, a team that everyone got behind the playoffs, was only tabbed for like 8 or 9 showings.
Yeah. And I think the Oilers had like 2 or something obscene like that. Like 3 or I don't know.
They don't have anyone good.
Right. And same thing with the Maple Leafs too. It was just like, just the further beating of the drum that the NHL has no idea how to market their product and market their superstars. Just, But yes, please keep shoving Patrick Kane down our throats. That's exactly what hockey fans need and want, is more Patrick Kane on my TV.
Nobody wants that.
No.
All right, the next day, August 1st, as the Wild and Mikael Granlund were winding towards arbitration, they got a deal locked up. He signed a 3-year deal worth $17.25 million, which is, pretty reasonable bridge deal on both sides. Yeah. Everybody was seemingly thinking he was going to get 5-6 years in the neighborhood of $6 million, but Granlund really didn't want that. He wanted a kind of a smaller deal so he could maybe cash in down the road, and the Wild's sake, hey, that's great for them because you didn't want to be locked into a long-term deal at a high cap, and then you have him kind of fall off after his career year last year of 69 points.
That's never happened to a Finnish player here before.
No. Also, nice. But no, that was kind of a great deal, I thought.
Yeah, there was a question about it later, but I really did like both of these deals, just because they fit very well. What the team wants to do, what each player wants to do, it fits.
So to this point, Chuck Fletcher's had a pretty good offseason with the exception of the trade with Buffalo. He navigated the expansion draft pretty good, and he's got two of his key players locked up for good team-friendly deals. But we're going to have more to say on that later. The next day, August 2nd, Hockey Analysis, one of my more go-to sites for the advanced hockey stats, ceased operations. And I can't remember if it was he got hired by somebody or if he just finally decided kind of enough.
Was he the one that was hired by the Canes?
Maybe.
He might have been the one that was hired by the Hurricanes. I'm fuzzy with it as well.
Let me punch it in the...
But I know also Corsica took the summer off. Manny Elk is revamping the site and it will be back soon. So that's great news for folks like us that like to study some statistics every now and then.
When he was
coming back,
obviously as he should, he was taking donations for keeping the site going the next year, and I hope people did donate to that, because having sites like that up are kind of starting to become few and far between.
Yeah. And Hockey Reference does a great job, and that's a site you don't have to worry about going away. But they're more of more of a encyclopedia type website. They're more of just basic information, and a lot of it, versus anything getting super advanced. They only have so much room on that site, and that site has a lot of information, so they can't delve quite as deeply into the game-to-game stats that some of these more advanced sites do, and it is really a shame that they're seemingly getting picked off one by one.
2 days later, August 4th, you and I did a thing.
That's right.
We were kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
For a day at least.
A day. An afternoon.
Yeah. An hour. We wrote an article for Puck Daddy.
Yes.
Which was pretty fun to do. In case you didn't see it, we imagined an alternate timeline in Minnesota Wild history where Pierre Maguire, not Chuck Fletcher, gets hired as general manager. And if you missed that, please go back and check it out. It is still the pinned tweet on my Twitter profile.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It's a little unfortunate that it got released on like a Friday afternoon, because I think a lot of people missed it because of that. But a lot of great feedback. I mean, incredible amounts of great feedback coming from that story, and that was a lot of fun to write. I know you and I both had tons of fun writing for that. A huge opportunity writing an article that was featured on Yahoo Sports, and hopefully something that a lot of people enjoyed.
It's fun to try to explain to your girlfriend, who is still a kind of a rookie when it comes to hockey, how big it is to be writing on Yahoo Sports. And then you're just kind of taken down a notch when in the grand scheme of things, yeah, nobody cares.
Did you think you were calling yourself the Puck Daddy, or...
Yes.
Because I can see a situation where that would be the case.
August 10th, almost a week ahead here, after a lot of speculation in the summer, a deal between CSKA Moscow and Kirill Kaprizov, Minnesota Wild prospect, was finally announced in a 3-year deal to remain in the KHL, which, as I wrote about this last week on Zone Coverage, was kind of a crushing blow to the Wild pipeline, as he represents the only prospect they have that really has high-end potential they really need. They have guys who can project to be great, decent players, but nothing in the realm of what Kaprizov can be.
Yeah, I think Luke Kunin has a decent chance, but yeah, to your point, I mean, Kaprizov is kind of head and shoulders the top prospect for the Wild, and I wrote an article as well right after the news came out where it was, I tried to make it sound as good as I could. I tried to look on the positive side of things, and in the fact that he might not have been over for a year or two anyway, and there's still a possibility that, if he blows up the way he blows up in the KHL, which he should, even as a 19, 20-year-old, there's still a chance they could buy out that contract. We saw it here with Ricky Rubio, if people recall that situation. Certainly, the Wild have a lot of reasons to fork over the dough to buy him out of that contract after year two, let's say. So if Kaprizov can come over before the end of that contract, great. If not, I think he's coming over still. He'll still be aged like 23 or 24. So, well, that really hurts the Wild right now because there's an obvious window there with your Koivus, with your Parisis, with your Suitors. I don't know. I tried to look on the positives that he's still going to be over at a relatively young age, and hopefully it's not too late for the rest of this team.
And as we record here on Sunday afternoon, Kaprizov leads CSKA with 9 points in 9 games to begin the year. Yeah. And that is, the elite team of the KHL. Yep. So in essence, it's like the New York Yankees of the KHL. Yeah. And he is leading them in points right now. So that's... I know he's like borderline top 10 in points in the KHL on the season because they have, guys like Ilya Kovalchuk just tearing it up. But at the age of 20, it's still a pretty impressive feat what really he is doing.
And when you stack up his stats, even this early in his career with guys like Vladimir Tarasenko, guys like Ovechkin, it stacks up very... not favorably for him, but it looks very good on him that he's on the same pace as those kind of guys. Artemi Panarin, guys like that.
August 16th. After much more speculation all summer, again for second summer in a row, Matt Cullen signed a 1-year deal with the Minnesota Wild. The base is $700,000, and then there's bonuses in there, which, if he hits, the Wild are no doubt screwed because they are in cap hell right now.
Yeah, but they're playoff-based ones, I think. So base. I think they're okay on that. So,
yeah, I don't think anyone's going to complain if the Wild hit those bonuses.
Right. And good on him. I mean, it was a little surprising for some, and other people swear they knew it was happening, but, good on Cullen for deciding to do that and giving up a chance on a three-peat with Pittsburgh, which is as likely as winning one with the Wild, I would think.
You could still three-peat.
Well, right, but personally, yes. Yeah. But, so it's very interesting that he decided to come home and play here, but obviously very needed because we talked about how screwed the Wild were, how they had really not any options for a fourth-line center going into this season if he didn't sign here. So he really came through and saved Chuck Fletcher's bacon on that.
Cullen is a guy you can plug into the lineup. You can third, fourth, second line. You can throw him at wing, center, whatever. He's a good utility player, a Nick Punto type, if you will, to throw in the lineup, and he'll get the job done. Yes.
Almost Nick spit Punto my beer reference. On you there. Jesus
yeah, you did.
Christ.
All over the soundboard.
Nick Punto.
I think we're becoming a baseball podcast.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
August 24th. A couple of newsworthy things here. First of which, the Dallas Stars. Yes, the Dallas Stars announce a throwback night and they're going to be wearing their throwback uniforms from the 93-94 season, which were the mainly black and white with that hint of green, which was the last of what we saw as the Minnesota North Stars.
Right.
But why are we bringing this up? Because they're doing this on February 3rd, and who is their opponent that night? You guessed it, folks, the Minnesota Wild.
Yep.
That is expert level trolling right there.
Yeah, on the bright side, they're wearing Dallas-era jerseys. If they decided, I don't think they could throw back to North Star jerseys. If they could, they probably would because they're that vindictive. But yeah, this is there's going to be a lot of butthurt in Minnesota that day.
Just imagine the vitriol on Wild Twitter if they were wearing North Star's era jerseys.
Might literally have a pitchfork and torch mob if that were to happen.
Somewhere in the seventh layer of hell, Norm Green approved. Later that day, or maybe it was earlier that day, I don't know, the Minnesota Wild announced their Our Ice campaign. And for an editorial on that, I give the floor to Ben Remington.
I wrote about this earlier this summer, how the Wild don't do a great job of letting their fans grow things organically. And maybe Wild fans aren't capable of growing things organically because they're not capable of understanding syllables, but this promotion is cool, and it's a cute idea, and yeah, ice, we have a lot of lakes. I fly into Minneapolis every week, I understand. But it's another one of those, it feels a little pandering to me, and it just more of like, we're land of 10,000 lakes and playing hockey on lots of lakes and blah 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 lakes, and here's our water, and I don't dislike it because I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a neat idea, and I think a lot of people can have some fun with it. I kind of dislike it just because it wasn't anything organic, and at the end of the day, like when they melt the ice the first time, where does that water go? Well, it goes into the St. Paul septic system, and who really cares? So, and I don't know how often they actually melt the ice for other events. I mean, they have concerts and stuff at the XL all the time. I don't believe they keep the ice all winter long. I've been to concerts there in like January and been standing on concrete. So I don't know how often that cycle is, but I don't know. I guess for the first game-ish or first couple of games-ish, it's kind of cool that some toilet water from your backyard is out on the ice with the Wild players, I suppose. I don't know. It'd be cooler if they didn't filter it. Right. That was like random twigs and leaves and fish heads.
For those who are unfamiliar with this, the Our Ice campaign was you could bring water from a lake, pond, whatever, and the Wild were collecting it this last weekend.
Yeah.
And basically what they're going to do is they're going to filter the water, and then they're going to use it in resurfacing the ice for a couple of games. Because, let's be honest, in the grand scheme, that's not a lot of water. Like, no matter how much water they say they got, that's probably just going to be like a couple games worth.
Right.
So, while you said it's a neat idea in theory, but it kind of comes across as more pandering to, the state of hockey, and you hit it pretty good in your article, so I would encourage people to go find that at zonecoveragemmn.com.
It'd be really funny if that just reeked like fish in the XL for like the first week.
It just has that dead fish smell.
Like some lakes, you just walk up to the lake and you're like, oh God, what is that? It'd be really funny if there was just like a hint of fish in here.
Just great memories. You get up to the lake and then you get out of the car and it's like that smell,
God.
And then you get to the shoreline. Oh, look, there's a dead dogfish just chilling there.
Just hanging out on the beach. Tremendous.
Yeah. And all of a sudden I just dead fish smell. August 28th, perhaps the biggest news of the summer.
Arguably, yeah.
As Michael Russo announces he is leaving the Star Tribune. and he kept it a mystery as to where he was going.
Did he?
I believe it was a Twins beat writer who let it slip later that day as to where he was going, but we'll come back to that later.
Right.
2 days later, August 30th, Wild announced national anthem singer James Bone has stepped down from that role. And they haven't really said what they're going to be doing for that.
I assume they'll hire somebody new.
I don't know if they're just going to hold auditions or what, but...
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me the preseason to see a different singer every night for that, in that case.
As long as it's not a children's choir like I get at every Twins game I go to.
Well, it's kind of hard to get them all out on the ice at once, so there's that.
Yeah, that's true. There's no carpet big enough to get a children's choir out there.
Maybe they ponied up a lot of money and they signed Renee Rancourt.
Good luck with that. September 6th. I believe that was the Tuesday after Labor Day.
Yes.
Michael Russo announces he has joined The Athletic and has launched The Athletic Minnesota.
Right.
Which is still basically just covering the Wild right now.
Well, no.
My bad. Last week, Brandon Warren of Zone Coverage MN announced he was joining The Athletic to cover the Twins. And it sounds like there's more on the horizon for The Athletic as they're going to try to cover all the Minnesota sports.
Yeah.
Basically right now, like, they have Russo for hockey, and then they have Brandon Warren for covering the Twins, or at least a little bit. Kind of sounded like there was more to come in the Twins department. But maybe I just misread the thing. But
I think Brandon's going to be the beat writer, as far as we know. I mean, he's already writing features on the Twins, and he's still with Zone Coverage at this time, as we saw him announce the other night on Twitter. So he's kind of splitting time a little bit for the rest of this season, and then I believe that the season's over, he will be fully with The Athletic and will fulfill more of the beat writer type role that he is doing for Zone Coverage right now for The Athletic. So.
And as we approached training camp, we were still waiting on a deal for Marcus Foligno. And then Media Day came and went, no deal. But then finally, the Wild announced on September 14th that they had signed Marcus Foligno, acquired in the Buffalo trade, to a 4-year deal that was worth about $2.8 million in cap hit every year.
Yeah.
And we have thoughts on this.
Well, it's a question later on, so I'll save it for that. But suffice it to say, we're not thrilled.
Yeah. Just take a sip of your beer, folks. No, we're going to come back to that in the mailbag segment, because we actually had mailbag questions.
Yeah. So
yeah,
should we?
I think we maybe have bumped up our listenership to 7 people.
So should we just go end this segment and then bump right into mailbag then?
Yes.
Anything else?
Well, I think we're good with the while we were away segment.
Right.
But I think we better hit some advertisements.
Sure.
So as we said at the beginning of the show, this is a dual-sponsored Giles and the Goalie podcast.
Yes.
First of which, we are at Tin Whiskers here in downtown St. Paul.
Yes.
The corner of, 7th and Robert Street.
Yes.
And if you are looking for a local brew house to stop into before the game, give them a look. It's a little bit of a walk, but I'd say 15 minutes. So if you leave at 6:45, you've got plenty of time to get to the game and be in your seat at puck drop.
And they do run drink specials before the games, so if you show up with any kind of Wild garb or paraphernalia on your person, there is drink specials. And as they've pointed out, parking is cheap here. Parking, even at the meters, I think, is like $1 an hour or something obscenely cheap like that. So
meters are very cheaper here compared to closer to the XL.
Yep. So if you are looking for, you don't mind a short walk before the game to burn off some of the beers that you've consumed, it's a good place to check out.
I know it seems rough in the wintertime, but it appears that global warming has ended the super cold winters.
Right.
So,
well, at the same time, too, and I don't know exactly how this would work, but I think if you just took like a Lyft or an Uber from here to the arena, it would probably cost you like $2 because it's like 8 blocks. So if you really wanted to in the winter, you could do that. Park here cheap, Lyft, Uber back, whatever.
Right now, I'm sipping on the Short Circuit Nitro Stout.
Yes,
which is wonderful. So I love a good Nitro Stout, and I believe you have the.
I have the Shoddy Pumpkin Ale because I'm a basic white person.
Are you one of those people who drinks the pumpkin spice lattes too?
Yeah, no. I'll give it the caveat. I used to work at a coffee shop, right? So we had a pumpkin pie latte, which actually had like pumpkin in it, unlike the Starbucks pumpkin spice latte. I did enjoy that from time to time, but I don't know that I've ever actually had the air quotes pumpkin spice latte from Starbucks. I don't know that I've ever actually done that. But no, this pumpkin ale is fantastic, as all the beers typically here are here. So it's up there with any of the other seasonal pumpkin ales that I've had before, last fall or the fall before or whatever. So highly recommended.
And I believe you are drinking the pale ale, right? How is it? Great? It's great.
The pale ale is great.
Yeah. As she joked, the pale ale because she is pale. Which is also like me, but I'm not drinking the pale ale because I'm not pale. One episode in, one middle finger.
You had it coming.
We're going places.
Yes.
So yeah, no. I encourage everyone to check out Tin Whiskers Brewing Company, corner of 7th and Robert, downtown St. Paul. Especially early on in the year when the weather is still pretty decent and before it gets too cold, because nobody likes to walk when it's 20 degrees out. Mm-hmm. I would encourage you to stop on in for a beer, and you can probably have 2 beers for the price of one inside at the arena.
That's very true.
Very high quality beer. Mm-hmm. So I encourage everybody to check that out. The other sponsor we have, I know, can't believe it either. 2 people have stepped in and sponsored this show.
Because we begged them on our hands and knees.
Yep. Please love us. Love me. Is a pick and shovelware, which you may have seen on the Gleeman and the Geek podcast for the Minnesota Twins. They were running some deals with them. They also sponsored the Twins Daily pub crawl shirts, which was this last Saturday.
Yeah.
And I didn't make it.
I know.
And I have many regrets.
Me too. I actually was doubled up on plans, as I had a juvenile heart walk and then also Aladdin yesterday. So I was very booked up, but still very remorseful that I didn't go to the Twins Daily pub crawl, because it's always a fantastic time.
I had to partake in a different pub crawl, which made me unavailable for the Twins Daily pub crawl.
Was it the Harry Potter one again?
No, that's next weekend. I'll have a report on that too.
Okay. But pick and shovel. We're pretty excited. We're kind of looking to promote each other a little bit, looking to get names out there, and it's a pretty cool site. Local sports type clothing, some interesting stuff, some stuff that they're very. I think it's kind of an old school feel to a lot of the stuff they have, and maybe at some point they'll let us design a T-shirt or something. Who knows? One can only hope.
All right. So basically, what we're doing with Pick and Shovelware right now is for the first 4 shows of the season, we are going to give a code. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of those 4 shows, you can send in those codes to our email account, gilesandthegoalie@gmail.com.
Right.
I know, original.
Yeah.
And then we will randomly select a winner for a gift basket from Pick and Shovelware, which includes a shirt, a hat, and a koozie from Pick and Shovelware.
Yeah.
I'm not sure on the shirt yet, but if you go check out their site, pickandshovelware.com, you can check out all the shirts they have, which they've got some good hockey stuff. They've got the half state of Minnesota with a skate under it, and then it says North on it. That is one I love. They have the Cooperall hockey player on it, which is my personal favorite.
It's tremendous.
But if you're a Twins fan, they've got some great Twin stuff. Vikings are always big in this town. They've got they've got some Viking stuff like a Randy Moss. They've got some other just Minnesota themed stuff. Yep. So I would encourage you to check that out. Pickandshovelware.com. And then the promo code you can use if you order some product on their website is Giles. Giles.
And you get free shipping, correct?
Yes. And you get free standard shipping in the United States on any order. So please use that because, hey, that's probably what.
Everyone could use a good, I don't want to say novelty because they're not novelty, but a good entertaining t-shirt. I'm a fan.
Oh, I'm a sucker for the novelty shirts.
I am a fan of that genre as well. So yeah, please do check out our friends at Pick and Shovel. Use the promo code Giles. Get free shipping on your shirt. Save a couple of bucks. Help support us and them. Some local folks.
And then the code for today's show, the first out of the 4 codes we have for the giveaway, is hockey.
That seems too easy.
Yep, but trust me, folks, when we get to the 4th, it'll all add up for you.
What show is it where they got a super serious tone? They're like, the password is hockey, and what show is that where they got super intense about giving you a password? It was an old school game show, and it's escaping me. The password is hockey.
I feel like I've heard that.
Yeah, it dawned on me when we were talking about this whole password business, and now I don't remember what it was. Great preparation.
Yeah. So again, check them out, pickandshovelware.com. They got some great line of shirts and whatnot. So please check them out, as they will be sponsoring the first 4 shows of this podcast.
And once we get the product for the giveaway, we'll tweet that out.
We'll tweet that out from our podcast account.
Yes.
At GATG Wild Podcast.
Yes. Mailbag?
To the mailbag. Thursday, we sent out a tweet from our podcast account just asking for some mailbag questions because there was starting to be wild news, so we wanted to get it out there, and while people were thinking about it. And we did get some questions. Just waiting for the computer to load.
Did we ever put out questions on Facebook on the account there? I don't think we did.
No, that would have been smart.
Yeah. But we don't want questions from racist uncles anyway, so I don't know that Facebook was quite our thing.
Probably not. But anyway. From the mailbag. From our friend Brett Marshall. Which team has overall best set of Adidas jerseys? And then he asked the worst.
Well, unfortunately, nothing really changed with Adidas. Literally, the one team that made marked changes to their jerseys were the Wild. There was a lot of tweaks, of course, as there always is when they switch providers.
Most of which came in the collar area.
Right, well, let's not get started on the collars. But the only team that actually physically changed the crest on their jersey was the Wild, bringing back their original logo to the green jerseys. And that's it. So I would say they're an improvement over the Reds, which had obviously not aged very well, thanks to the Reebok Edge system. So, I don't know, I think the Wild did pretty well for themselves. I did like Colorado cutting out a lot of the Reebok Edge elements to their jerseys and adding back the mountain-ish look to the bottom of their jerseys. I think that was a positive step for them. What do you think?
The best set.
Well, I mean, the best set is because not much changed, so you can go with like the Rangers, the Canadians,
I feel like
the
Toronto probably
Blackhawks.
has like the best set.
Yeah,
like the Blackhawks, the color really just.
Oh, the color looks awful in the Blackhawks. Yeah, but again, I think that's across the board with these Adidas jerseys. It's just kind of the thing, and hopefully it'll be rectified.
No, I would say. I would say Toronto, but
okay.
As for the worst, man, I gotta go with Ottawa. Like,
yeah,
I think at least Ottawa's like the one I'm like so disappointed in because they had a chance to like just make a change and they did not. And
yeah,
that is upsetting. Like, at least to me.
Yeah, and along those same lines, the Ducks, obviously, they teased going back to orange, which isn't necessarily a positive step, but the fact they're still remaining the same is kind of gross. Vancouver as well. I think there was whispers that they were going to have some kind of redesign, and that didn't happen either. So I don't know if there's just more design elements coming. It seems kind of weird to me that so many teams didn't do much with this new provider as we thought. We covered it. I mean, there was a whole entire podcast about it this summer. You can find that. I believe it was...
Read our articles.
I think, what was it called? Cream of Wheat, I believe?
Yep. No. Collard greens.
Oh, yes. Collard
Cream
greens.
of Wheat was the week before.
We were talking about, yes. Good call.
When it was hinted that the wheat was coming.
Yes. So, yeah, collard greens. Look up episode, I believe it was 100-something or another, collard greens.
Another question here from Brett. Are nachos, complete with veggies and meat, considered a meal, side, or an appetizer?
I gotta think that no matter what, they're an appetizer. I mean, you could eat enough nachos to stuff yourself silly, and I've done it many times.
Haven't we all?
Right. But it's kind of like eating enough, Doritos to fill yourself. Yeah, you're full, but was it a meal? I just don't know that that's the case.
Ooh, okay. Side question. Doritos, nacho cheese or Cool Ranch?
I go back and forth. What I like to do is I like to rock the nacho cheese, and then that's the kind that I dip with salsa and or sour cream, because that's a good mix.
Well, I am firmly in the nacho cheese camp.
Sure.
Cool Ranch is good, but
yeah.
If they just had equal proportions of that flavoring on every chip, that would
true.
win. But it's just so hit or miss on these chips. It's like I've got to go with nacho cheese because there's more consistency there.
So my girlfriend bought generic Doritos from Aldi.
Oh no!
And they were completely devoid of dust. Like they had. It's like they shook the chips over some kind of like sieve or something, and the dust was completely barren from these chips, and that's why they're $1 a bag for like a gigantic bag at Aldi.
Oh boy,
we have many arguments over generic foods in my household.
Yeah. So back to the nachos. I'm gonna say they're a meal.
Don't you hate kids?
Of course you would.
No, they're a meal.
Yeah.
Like, you cover most of your food bases in there for a meal. And then usually nachos are they're so big that you don't need more food after.
Yeah, the whole filling thing I just don't think comes into play here, because like I said, I mean, I've eaten enough ice cream to choke a small horse, and it does not make it a meal. Like, I don't know.
You know, I really got to hand it to her. In the summer months, she's learned how to adequately push my buttons and push them well.
I like her food takes already, so she can say.
Or at least I think her best one was, she's like, I think I'm going to become a hockey fan. But I think I'm going to become a fan of the Avalanche. To which my ears shot into the back of my head.
Oh, boy. Fun stuff.
Well, I guess the nachos are going to be the food debate of the hockey season.
So is it a meal or not? Nachos Montreal.
Oh, man. That photo is just scarred into my head.
Oh, gross.
I have to show her the photo.
Oh, yes.
Because
this is Nachos Montreal. It's a style of nachos that... and if people don't know what we're talking about, there's a picture, and I'll wait till she sees it not to ruin it. But there's a fan who clearly ordered some nachos, and he is storing them underneath the urinal that he is using while attending a Montreal Canadiens game with a Shea Weber jersey, no less.
And this was like early in the year.
This was like preseason. Yeah, it was
Weber
like
jersey.
he got it hot off the rack, bought himself some nachos, placed it below the pisser, and then continued to take a leak. So, Nachos Montreal.
From our friend Derek at The Athletic, who was hired as a
briefly
freelancer for Michael Russo to do some analytics pieces on the Wild. Mm-hmm. He's actually going to be our guest next week.
Oh.
Kind of a...
Spoiling that now.
Yeah, we'll just get it out there.
Okay.
That's why still listening.
Yeah. That'll keep them listening.
Derek's going to join us next week.
Very excited for that.
Talk about your Corsies and Fenwicks and points per 60, and he's gonna explain it all to us.
Hopefully in very small words.
He wants a knee-jerk reaction to the Foligno contract. That's his first question.
Well, I got one for you. All right, there's my reaction. I kind of went off about this when it was announced because it's just for Foligno, who, he scored 23 points in 80 games last season. He's a big dude, but there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of skill there. And he's 26, I think. So I'm not super confident in him suddenly becoming a 50-point player or anything. It just baffles me that he was somehow able to leverage a $2.8 million contract. And not that that's like earth-shattering, life-changing money, but it's also not what you should be paying anybody on your fourth line, which I think he should be there. Like, I just don't see how he's better than any of the wings in the top 9 for the Wild right now. So I don't know. And the term is maybe the worst part, because not only are you paying him 2.8, but you're paying that for 4 years. And our friend Tony Abbott from Hockey Wilderness wrote an article about how this was really a misstep by Chuck Fletcher, and you and I had talked about how we've been accused of being on the Chuck Fletcher apologist bandwagon for a long time, but I think the whole time we've just been kind of real about it, and we've liked a lot of the things that Chuck Fletcher has done, but this along with the Pominville trade is something you just really can't defend. Like, I'm not Chuck Fletcher's number one fan, and I think he made some good moves, but I think this is a bad move. Simple as that. I've got some comparables here, actually. People who are making $2.8 million or less this season. Let me know if you've heard of these guys. Brock Nelson, he's making less than $2.8 million. Yes. Toivo Teravainen on a rookie or an entry-level deal or a bridge deal, but making less than that. Jason Zucker is making only $2 million this year, and somehow look at the season he had before, and somehow Marcus Foligno had more leverage than that. Sam Bennett is making less than Marcus Foligno. And then a couple of old friends, Tom Vanek is, say what you want about Tom Vanek, but he's going to score 50 points or 40 points, depending on his usage and how healthy he stays. He's making $2 million this year. And perhaps the most frustrating one, and Giles, try to keep from crying here, but Eric Holla is making less than than Marcus Foligno.
We have to take a short break because I have to go get another beer.
And so it's really frustrating to me. Like, I don't know how you leverage 23 points in a season into money that some very good up-and-coming young players are making, or even some guys who have produced in the past but are now past their prime. They're making that kind of money. This guy is neither, and he's making that kind of money, and I just don't get it.
I mentally prepared myself for, a term in that area, or not term, but a salary in that area.
Yeah.
Their annual salary, a cap hit, if you will. The thing that just crushes me is the term, as you said. And 4 years is far too much for a guy who's never scored more than 23 points in a season. And, Bruce Boudreau generally does get more out of players. And if Foligno can stay healthy, yeah, sure, he'll probably maybe hit 30 points if he stays healthy all year, because, he loves to have, or he's going to have, good depth throughout the lineup so that he can roll 4 lines that can score. But as I want to say Tony pointed out in that same article, that Chuck Fletcher had a previous history of giving out long-term contracts to guys who are nothing more than fourth liners.
Yeah.
And while it had looked like he had finally moved on from that, he has gone back to that here, right, which, again, is upsetting because you don't hand out 4-year contracts to guys that are going to be fourth liners. You maybe give them 2-year contracts, maybe.
Yeah.
But never 4. And we would all love to be proven wrong,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
There's been nothing to prove that, or nothing has said that this is going to be good.
Right.
So right now it is, okay, hope this doesn't come back to bite him in the ass. Otherwise, this is going to be Chuck Fletcher's next bought-out contract.
I can almost guarantee there's going to be a buyout here or a trade. There's going to be a trade or a buyout. There's no way Marcus Foligno spends 4 years on this team making that kind of money. And, just stop and think about it. Eric Stahl got less term than Marcus Foligno. Eric Stahl got less term than Marcus Foligno, which on essentially was the open market. Foligno was an RFA, but and only $700,000 more per year. He makes 3.5, and so you're looking at comparable contracts between a guy and Eric Stahl, who's a Stanley Cup winner, was maybe on the course to be a Hall of Fame player before things fell apart a little bit later in his career in Carolina, and he, a 70-point scorer at one time, and you're giving out a similar contract, more term, less money, to a guy who scored 23 points playing alongside Jack Eichel. And you can't score more than 23. I don't know. I don't want to go on about this all day because I will.
Well, there you go, Derek. We knee-jerk reaction to the Foligno contract. And his other question was, predict the best and worst headlines for this coming season.
Okay, so I have 2 back-to-back here. Worst headline of the season, Zach Parise placed on long-term injury reserve. Followed the next day by the best headline of the season, Minnesota Wild sign Jaromir Jagr. Boom.
I'm not even going to try to top that.
It literally just came to me to add those two together because I tweeted about it yesterday. I was like, those are some good headlines.
Worst headline for this season. Wild continue to have backup goalie problems.
Oh, God.
Sorry, Gretchen. Best headline of the season.
Alex Ovechkin.
Nino Niederreiter leads the Wild in scoring, named All-Star for Minnesota Wild.
Well, now you're just pandering to Derek.
Yeah. We have to pander to our guests.
It's true. Otherwise, they might not come on.
From our friend Joe at Hockey Wilderness, I guess Parisi's back. Is back again. Parisi's back. Woof. Wild have to deal with this again.
Yeah, we didn't even really talk about that. Parisi missing training camp so far, has not actually skated with the team because of his back. They're calling it minor and making it sound like he's being held up because of precautionary type deals. But when you can't even show up to camp healthy, that's a concern. That's a very legitimate concern, and you and I have touched on this a long time about Parisi being very risky going forward with the money that he was making and being almost a lock for the next amnesty buyout. And it just it's ugly. It's not good news, and I don't think this team absolutely needs Zach Parisi to be successful, but it's going to be hard for them to be successful without him if it's any kind of long-term issue.
No, that sums it up just about perfectly, and I will continue to say after the 2019-2020 lockout, every team gets an amnesty. Zach Parisi will be your amnestied Minnesota Wild.
Either that or he's going to be the Chris Pronger route, and he's unfortunately...
So he'll be in the Hall of Fame before his contract's
up. Unfortunately, it could be a situation where he has to retire. I don't see Zach Parisi being that kind of guy. I don't see him quitting like that, and that's maybe the unfortunate side of things for the Wild, because he won't be the type to pseudo-retire so they can LTIR him, but maybe that's the case.
From Brett Marshall, which Central Division team, including the Wild, do you think changed the most over the offseason? Was it for the better or for the worse?
The team that changed the most... It's a toss-up for me between Dallas and Chicago, and both directions. I think Dallas for the better, which is kind of scary. They got a lot of defense. They got a world-class goaltender. They're going to be good, whether we like it or not. And Chicago changed a lot, but it was a lot of getting the band back together, and I don't think they're going to be better this year. I think that this is when you start to see those Kane and Tave contracts really eat that team alive.
Well, I had both of those two teams queued up, hoping you would take one so I could...
I couldn't decide. I'm sorry.
But I'm going to say Chicago with the most change, and I think it's in the worst. And I can't remember who I saw tweeted out. I want to say maybe it was Dom from The Athletic. Kind of his projections for teams this year, and I think he had like Chicago like 5th or 6th in the Central. How far back they've kind of taken a step.
Right.
And yeah, they traded their best defensive defenseman, Nicholas Hjalmarsson, for
peanuts.
Just about nothing.
Yeah. Cap space.
They moved Artemi Panarin, who was Patrick Kane's right-hand man, and on the ice.
Don't say partner in crime with Patrick Kane.
Yeah, that would have been really bad. And they traded him for Brandon Saad, who was, Jonathan Taves' guy. Those two clicked really well, and I hope they're going to, reignite Jonathan Taves, who had not a good year statistically last year.
Right. And they brought back Patrick Sharp. So no girlfriend is safe.
Oh, boy. Hide your wives.
Oh, fun times.
No, Chicago took a step back for me. Like, they'll still be a good team, but I I don't think they're going to win the division, and they're probably going to be, at best, third in the division or a wild card playoff team.
Yeah,
like they're not gonna win the division. They're not gonna be the best team in the West.
Nope, I would agree.
From Ben Gordon, who holds more value in their deal a couple years from now, Nino or Granlund?
A couple years from now, I mean, Granlund's deal is up in 3 years.
2 years from now. Last year, Granlund's deal.
Sure. I don't know. I think it's easy to project Granlund as that because he had a more productive season this season, but I think that's also why he took a bridge deal, is because he feels like he can get to an even higher level. I'm more inclined to lean Nino. I'm more of a believer in Nino's talents. For that reason, I'm glad that he got a 5-year deal instead of a 3-year deal. So I would lead Nino. Granlund did it for 1 year after some pretty abysmal seasons production-wise, whereas Nino has been on like a constant, he's been constantly ascending as far as his production goes. So I'm more inclined to buy into that track record, I guess.
I'll say Granlund here. I think he'll continue to give you, maybe not close to 70 points every year, but, I think he'll give you, in the range of 60 points. He's going to be a top 6 player. He's going to be a power play guy. He's going to put up the points, and I think he'll give you a good value on that 3-year deal, and then in the hopes that he's going to do better than what he did this last year and cash in down the line. And it was, like we said, it was a good deal for the Wild to take, a 3-year bridge deal so that he can cash in at age 28 and on that long-term deal. And I think there will be more value in that. Not to say that there's not going to be value in the Niederreiter contract, because as Derek wrote in The Athletic, and I'm sure we'll talk about him next week, Niederreiter is going to give you very good production wherever you put him.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, for now, Granlund would be my pick, just in terms of the kind of term that the contract got. But
okay, that's fair. I think either way you can't lose. So I'm really glad that they did what they did as far as those contracts go.
From Ethan Hofflin, what are your expectations / predictions for Joel Eriksson Ek this season?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I think, as with any young player, I think you should kind of shoot low. I don't think we want to count on Joel Eriksson Ek for a 50-point season. He's going to be essentially on the third line, you would think, or some capacity like that for most of the year if he's on the team, which you would also kind of hope that he does. But I think as long as you see some stretches from him, some flashes from him, I think you have to be happy with that. If he can kind of come in around the 40-point mark, or thereabouts, not exactly that, but I think I'd be happy with that as long as he shows some progression and some flashes in this season.
I was really encouraged by the prospect tournament he played in last week. He looked really sharp. He looked like he was just a step above the rest, which is definitely what you want him to see. And Bruce Boudreau was raving about him in beginning of training camp, although it sounds like he was a little bit banged up from that prospect tournament, just with all the checking and slashing and whatnot. Slashing, which apparently is going to be cracked down this year by new Department of Player Safety head George Peros.
Okay.
Rolls eyes.
Mark Mathat's finger thanks you.
I think Eriksson Ek will. I think he'll be around for most of the year. Maybe early in the year he might get a little brief stint in Iowa just to give him a lot more minutes. But I think for the most part you're going to see him as the third / fourth line center. We know Boudreau will not be afraid to alternate, and I still think he'll get 13, 14 minutes a night, and there's a lot to hope for. I keep going back to that play against Buffalo last year when he deked around a defender and then he scored from an absolutely insane angle. And that just kind of gives you a little glimpse of the skill he has. Yep. And that is very encouraging, and I think he could definitely be a 30, 35-point player at least, just on his skill, and at the very least, he'll have more points than Marcus Foligno.
Aww.
Dun, 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 dun. All right, last question from Alec. What kind of feeling are people getting before the start of the regular season?
It's tough to measure. I don't know.
I'll tackle this first. One, I'm excited. It's hockey season's back. Although my beer consumption will skyrocket again. But I'm also nervous because the Central Division is a utter crapshoot outside of one cellar-dwelling team that resides in the Rocky Mountains. And, there's only 5 teams at most can make the playoffs out of the division. Right. And you've got 6 pretty good hockey teams. One of them is going to be the odd man out. And you just hope that it is not the Wild. And they are bringing back a very similar team to the one that put up 106 points and was second best in the Western Conference last year. But that trade with Buffalo for Foligno and Tyler Ennis, who I'm not sure if you know this, was best friends with Jared Spurgeon when they were younger.
Really?
It concerns me. There's a lot of unknowns there, and that's what frightens me, but I guess in the end, you still have a pretty similar roster last year, and this team will probably now be making the playoffs for 5 years in a row.
Yeah, I think that this team is pretty safely a playoff team, and I think everyone's looking at it like that. But as we saw with the playoffs last year, it's kind of a crapshoot, even more so than the Central Division itself. So I think there's a lot of guarded optimism, and I think that's kind of where people should be, is somewhat optimistic, but at the same time, you don't know, because this team is very similar to the team last year in a lot of ways. But it's also a little different, too. So you don't know how that kind of stuff is going to work out. There's no more Pominville, no more Scandella. So it's different in just enough ways to where it's going to be, you don't really know what you're getting.
Yeah.
There's another question, too, from our friend of the podcast, Taylor. I added it.
Did I miss that
podcast account? Yes.
I don't see it on the replies.
It's not in the replies. I retweeted it and he replied to me. It's in the podcast mentions.
Ooh. Let's see if I can find it.
I'm only bringing it up because I did some research on it.
I'll just check his.
Well,
here we go. I got it.
Okay.
Does Jaromir Jagr sign with an NHL team this season? Does he play in Europe? Does he retire?
I don't think he retires.
No.
I also don't think he plays in Europe. The KHL season already started, and that's not to say he can't jump on with the team right now, because I'm sure he could. I do think he ends up with the NHL, but I think he comes in as like a mercenary type and hops on with a team that maybe has an injury right off the bat, or maybe for whatever reason they give a spot to a young player who isn't quite ready for it yet, and he just jumps into that. I'm not saying that the Wild are that team because they can't afford him anyway with their cap space, but I could very well see him also waiting and playing in the Olympics, as I'm sure he wants to do, and then jumping on with an NHL team for the stretch run. I mentioned this in my article about him on Friday. But one team that I kind of liked to sign him, maybe now, maybe later, is a team very near and dear to your heart, the Washington Capitals.
Who?
There is not really a team that's more win now than them. And they only have $4 million in cap space right now, according to Cap Friendly, which they haven't actually moved up some guys that are going to make the team, so they have less than that. But I feel like, here's their wings. They have Ovechkin and Oshie, obviously, Andrei Burakovsky, Tom Wilson, Brett Conley, Devontae Smith-Pelly. It's not a group, beyond Ovi and Oshie, obviously. That's not a group that's going to strike fear into a lot of hearts. And it's, pretty well documented how good of a season Jágr still had at age 46 last year. So if they can get his number down to, $1 million or $2 million range, I can really see that being an option. It's not another jersey for the traveling Jágrs, unfortunately, or maybe I guess it is because they have new jerseys now. So it's a more modern jersey for the traveling Jágrs, but I think that's a good fit for him, just in what Washington wants to do and kind of the talent pool they have to deal with. I don't know. What do you think?
I think he will not retire, but I kind of get the feeling he's just going to kind of play in Europe, get the Olympics, and then before the trade deadline, get on an NHL team.
Really? Okay.
So he can be playoff eligible.
He's going to play in Europe before that? Okay. On like a monthly contract?
I don't understand why a team out there hasn't signed him yet, especially the kind of production he has.
No kidding.
I'm sure there's other variables going on that we don't know about.
Yeah, true.
But someone, for the love of God, sign Jágr.
All right. Is that it for the mailbag then?
That is the mailbag.
We can move on to the final segment.
Oh, boy.
There is no off-season when it comes to Andy Luke and Reed Football Machine on the Colo Podcast Network. Stick with us all off-season long as we talk free agency, the draft, OTAs, training camp, and then we're back in the season, baby, available on iHeart, iTunes, Stitcher, and ColdNoMod.com/machine.
Here to start the third period. What team is this? It's not Team USA. Well, yes, it is. They've got on new uniforms. They're wearing the logo of the Duck. I've never seen this before.
Our famed segment, the jerseys. Do you want to explain our jersey segment for the year?
Sure. So this year, as we spent last year pondering the changes that teams would make, and I feel like we had a lot of great ideas, and I feel like not a single team used any one of them. So there's that. So this year, with Adidas coming into the NHL and only allowing 2 jerseys per hockey team, for what reasons I'm not quite sure. Next year is when they'll re-roll out third jerseys again. So the third jersey program is on hold for a season, as they did with the Reebok Edge system as well. So we won't see any third jerseys out of any NHL teams this year, but they will be around next year. So what we're going to do all season long is ponder and or design third jerseys for each NHL team as we see fit. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think that we're going to be trying to be more creative with it. I know last year it got a little redundant in that we didn't want a lot of teams to make changes to their current jerseys. Whereas this third jersey program, that's what the name of the game is to have a different jersey than what you already have, and that's the point of a third jersey. So it should be a lot of fun this year, just kind of slapping together a third sweater for each team and designing it as we see fit.
Yeah, should be fun. Do we have a team for this week?
Yeah.
Or are we... Okay.
I gave you a list, but...
As always, I'm adequately prepared.
It's on the Google Doc that you created. So anyway, it's the Minnesota Wild this week. I figured we'd start off with a slam dunk. So we're going to consider the third jersey for next season for the Minnesota Wild. I don't know. I get the feeling that the Wild will come out with a third jersey for next season. Call it a money grab, call it whatever you want, but I feel like they will. I don't think they'll wait around. I don't think a lot of teams are going to wait around from what it sounds like. I saw there was a survey this summer from the Tampa Bay Lightning asking fans what they wanted in a third jersey, which I thought was really cool.
I filled it out.
I did too. And they didn't accept the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim as an option, so they probably aren't going to listen. So, but it just it seems like they will. Most teams that want third jerseys will have them next year, so that makes it kind of cool. So I think the Wild will be in that group. What do you think? What direction do you think the Wild go in for their third jersey?
So what I would look for in a third jersey, or at least what I would want, is a more simplified look of the green jerseys from the last 7 years for this year. Less shoulder piping. Or no shoulder piping.
Preferably none.
And they'll probably simplify the stripes on the side and the bottom to make it more Adidas friendly and whatnot. But I just thought the Minnesota crest was a good look, and just the green and the cream jerseys was a solid look, and it's probably one they should bring back. But the negative one in me, it just seems to think they're just going to bring back some kind of red jersey next year. So, yay. And they'll probably slap that good M logo on a red jersey next year in some way.
Yeah, I think, to your point, I would like to see a green jersey as well. I'd be fine if the old green jersey came back and they did that, like you're saying. That'd be great. But I feel like they're going to go a different direction with it. I don't know. They usually try to change these things. So if they do bring back a green jersey and it's different, I would like to see that M logo used. But maybe is just the chest crest itself, or maybe as using that font as like the diagonal look down across the chest, like the Rangers. Or like the 90s Penguins. I think that's a really good old school look that only the Rangers really use, and a lot of teams at the college and high school level use it. So I think that the Wild could make use of it. But, unfortunately, I think you're probably right. It probably will be a red jersey of some kind. Maybe it'll look good. I'm not saying a red Wild jersey can't look good. I'm just a little wary of it, given how poorly the old ones aged. I just hope that they don't do something. Poorly. I just hope they don't do something too gimmicky. But to your point, I do like that M logo. I think that whatever they have will probably have that involved some way, somehow, because they really seem to pick that logo up and kind of run with it after taking it off the old green jerseys.
So that's what we would look forward to. Maybe later in the year we'll have some kind of Minnesota Wild third jersey design contest.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see.
It went so well with the Stadium Series that I just am itching to do that again.
We could probably promote it a little more.
That might help too.
That's our jersey segment for this year, and we're going to try to be a little more creative than what we were with this last year. Like we said, we kind of rehashed the same things and previous feelings.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try and just not, say, well, they should go with this throwback look.
Yeah. Even though in a lot of situations that would be great. I mean, like with the LA Kings, how do you not want them to wear the Gretzky-era jerseys again, But that'd be maybe too easy. I don't know. Maybe we'll end up saying that when it rolls around. Who knows?
So that's it for the jersey segment. That can probably wrap up our show.
Sure. Well, we had, I don't know if you even remember this or not. We had a bet.
Ooh, yes.
And so we're going to kind of roll with that maybe on a weekly basis this year. We'll see how many wagers we can strike up. But we talked about this summer on the Twitters you bet that the Timberwolves would not make the postseason this year, despite the acquisition of Jimmy Buckets.
Correct.
So we're going to kick off our weekly wager segment with a wager that will take much longer than a week, but the payoff is just that much sweeter. Because at the end of the NBA season, if the Wolves do not make the NBA playoffs, I will eat a bowl of soup on air.
Just a bowl of soup.
Just a bowl of soup. And I will be terribly famished and hungry afterwards, but I'm just going to have to deal with it because that's the deal.
She just looked over and said, "That's awful."
Yes. Conversely, when the Wolves do make the playoffs because of Jimmy Buckets, you will be eating some coleslaw on air. And
straight up.
It will be glorious.
Just coleslaw.
Just coleslaw. Because... And I'll hopefully be able to find you some good coleslaw, because I will give you that there is coleslaw out there that's not that good. But there is coleslaw out there that is very good, and you will eat it.
Oh, boy.
So look forward to that, our new segment, The Weekly Wager.
The Weekly Wager.
Well, the Timberwolves' new neon jerseys just make me want to root for them so hard.
They're Northern Lights inspired, Giles. Northern Lights inspired lime green jerseys.
Or, as Clarence Swamptown would say, they're just prepping for a move to Seattle.
Yeah. Hard to argue.
Anyway. So yeah, I did forget about the weekly wager. We will be doing that every week. We'll check in on that.
Yeah.
And a few other weekly wagers, probably.
Yeah.
That'll be another thing to look forward to this year. But yeah, it's been quite a long show, as expected, as we're windbags. But that can probably wrap up the show for this week. We're going to be back next week. This isn't just a one-week wonder. We're coming back for the next 42 Sundays. We will be in your ear holes.
Are we even doing Christmas? Have we? I mean, we did last year, so why not, I guess, huh?
Yeah. Nothing is going to stop me from going to a certain bar on Christmas. It's always open.
Unnamed bar and grill in St. Paul?
Correct.
Yes.
She had her first poutine experience there.
Nice.
This last weekend.
Poutine is fantastic.
Yeah. She said it was okay.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm just kidding. She thought it was really good.
Okay. I almost had a mild stroke there.
She originally called it poutini. That has since been corrected. Ooh, we've got our second middle finger of the season. Man, we are on pace for about 100 middle fingers this season. We are doing good.
That doesn't even count all the people listening to us and middle fingering their listening device.
And we're not even a columnist.
No. See, I thought about this on the way here, because I don't do the introductions, but if I did, I would call you Giles Farrell, hockey beat writer for ZoneCoverage.com, and I am a columnist for ZoneCoverage.com. Because those are the feathers that I want to ruffle. So,
yeah, we're not afraid to ruffle some feathers here.
No, sometimes.
No, that'll wrap it up for this week. You can find Ben and I writing at zonecoverage.com/wild.
Mm-hmm.
You can find Ben and I on Twitter at Giles Farrell, at Ben Remington. Our podcast has a Twitter account at GATG Wild Podcast. We do also have a Facebook account, facebook.com/GATG Wild Podcast. Try to follow us there. Mm-hmm. We have 3 odd followers on that account. Really 4.
Could be up to 5 by tomorrow.
Thank you to Tin Whiskers for hosting us this week.
Yes.
Thanks to Pick and Shovelware for sponsoring this and the next 3 shows. Be sure to check them out. You can find Tin Whiskers at Tin Whiskers Brew on the Twitter, twbrewing.com. You can find Pick and Shovel Wear on Twitter at Pick and Shovel MN. You can find them at pickandshovelwear.com. And again, you can use the promo code Giles for free shipping in the U.S. if you so choose to buy some shirts there.
You know what? I'm going to go home and do that right now.
I told her to do that. Just buy all the shirts.
I'm just not going to tell my girlfriend that I am.
So no, we will be back again next week. We've got preseason games tomorrow.
What?
Wow. Yeah, the Vegas Golden Knights are playing in a hockey game right now.
Whoa.
We've it's been a weird experience. But we will be back again next week to break it all down. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you later.
Bye.
St. Paul, Minnesota. Minneapolis, Minnesota.
We are ducks, and ducks fly together.
That's not resiliency. You're making it sound like we're good. That's all. I'm done.